I'd like to bring the House Ag Committee subcommittee together. If we could, I'd like to first take care of a couple of housekeeping efforts. The committee, Delegate Williams-Graves would like to strike her bill, but we've got to do that in full committee and make sure we have a letter to continue the work group. So we'll be doing that and not taking that up today and making that recommendation. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Also today, with the order, we're going to kind of take it up by subject matter too, to ensure that some of the, as the bills are heard, if we have kind of the same people, they can get up and kind of say, very quickly, hey, we oppose this bill, we like this bill for the various reasons. That way we can keep it fairly short. And when you're giving testimony, brevity is always praised as we move forward. And so to begin today, I'd like to start with our most senior member, Delegate Carr. Ladies first, please. And also, I believe, Delegate Keene and Delegate Lopez have very, very similar bills, so we'll kind of, if we could, try and take the testimony for all of them. Sorry, I apologize. We need to do roll, don't we? If we could. I was too busy getting down to business.
Yeah, well, I'm messing around.
Try not to. This room's hot. Not here. All right, the clerk has taken attendance. Everybody's here. Delegate Carr, please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move committee amendments.
Do we have the amendment? Could you explain what your amendment does?
Yes, sir. This removes manufactured recycling out of. It's called incineration. The exact wording of it is.
I can read it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, please.
Where appropriate, incineration on line 57.
There you go.
Okay. Is there a motion on the amendment?
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. The amendment has been adopted. Delegate Carr, please describe your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 647 establishes the Extended Producer Responsibility, or the EPR program. This program is used around the world to save money for localities, increase recycling, and incentivize packaging design to reduce waste. I've heard from a number of constituents who asked me to introduce such a program here in Virginia after becoming familiar with a similar program in Maine and other places. Not that we would have the exact same program, but just familiar with the concept, and allowing this as a way to start a conversation. There's tremendous burden on local stewards to recycle and keep our land and water litter-free. Our current recycling system is insufficient and broken. Localities have no control of the types of materials that end up as waste, yet are responsible for the cost of waste management and recycling. Single-use plastics are particularly problematic and the most commonly found littered products in Virginia. This is devastating to our wildlife and our special places. Under a packaging stewardship program and fund, which is created in this bill, manufacturers are responsible for the waste their products create and bear responsibility for the collection and proper recycling of those products at the end of their useful lives. This incentivizes producers to design their products to be more environmentally friendly throughout their life cycle. Passing HB 647 could more than redouble recycling, helping to keep more trash out of landfills, incinerators, and our environment. Ellie Beamer from the Environment Virginia is here to speak on behalf of the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Carr. Questions from the committee, and then we'll take testimony. Does anybody have any questions? Delegate Goditis? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Delegate Carr, I'm very interested in this, and it's something that I think of every time Christmas rolls around and we have to get out pocket knives to get to some tiny little object. How does this work for overseas products and distributors, and who bears the burden?
We're focusing on the ones here in the United States at this point, and the ones that appear
Say
up
it
in
again.
Virginia.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. Say it again.
We're focusing on the ones here right now. I don't think we can go over to Europe and make mandates over there.
Thank you.
Delegate Will?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, so could you paint me a big picture of what you're describing as environmentally friendly, and what options would that leave for the manufacturers? Of what kind of packages? What are they going to be made out of? How's all that thing going to work?
Well, I think we know that, as someone said, a lot of packages come a lot of increase around a small object. So there's a big thing in packaging design that I think we have room for opportunity to eliminate some of the packaging material in that. In addition, we have a number of the idea of the bill is to kind of, at this point, consumers are responsible for recycling. What this bill does is try to equalize between the manufacturers and the consumers so that both have some responsibility. As we know, the pollution in our streets, in our fields, in our gutters, in our waterways comes from this overuse, availability of the packaging materials. And I think that there's something that we need to look at this. Part of this bill is hopefully to begin a conversation about looking at what we have to do for the future. We cannot continue having these piles of refuge and litter and so forth. We've got to do something about this, and we need to do it sooner rather than later.
All right. If we can, let's begin testimony in regards to the piece of legislation. Do we want to, can we start with, where's my list? Is there anybody? So I guess, is there anybody here to in the room to speak in favor of 647, 709? We'll do that first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Delegate Carr. My name is Connor Kish with the Sierra Club. I'll be very brief. We support the bill, and I believe that Ellie Bamer, who Delegate Carr mentioned, is available to testify virtually, and would associate myself with her remarks as well. Thank you.
Is there anybody in the room to testify against? And then we'll go to virtual.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and subcommittee members. I'm Mike Carlin with Access Point Public Affairs and representing the Coalition for Consumer Choices, comprised of 5 regional chambers of commerce and 9 statewide associations. On behalf of the coalition, we respectfully oppose this bill and ask you to oppose it. Among our concerns, if you look at line 47 through 50, is a shift in the cost of the current recycling system to producers of goods, which will create a hidden tax on packaged goods that are bought by Virginians. Study of this program in Maine concluded that the average cost for a family of 4 for groceries, the average increase in cost was about $40 a month for that program. Additionally, we're concerned that if you look at lines 34 through 35, the bill discriminates against for-profit businesses by exempting nonprofit businesses from the proposed new fee that will have to be paid. Also, we're concerned about that the bill prohibits the use of the new proposed fees to support recycling technologies that convert plastics into reusable materials such as fuel and feedstocks, which are needed by our manufacturing industry here in Virginia. That's lines 92 and 93. And finally, we're concerned that this will diminish support for recycling by subsidizing local government's use of landfills for materials that are not readily recyclable. Localities will be reimbursed for those. So appreciate your consideration of our concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Helmer, do you have a question for the witness?
Mr. Chair, just a quick one. I just want to understand, from the basis of, basically we are creating waste. There's a cost associated with any disposal or recycling of this waste.
Right.
Currently, my understanding is that if we don't enact this bill, that cost is borne by taxpayers in the localities. They've got to pay for it. And so what I'm understanding, and I just want to make sure I understand it right, is what we're saying is instead of taxpayers and localities being responsible for the cost here, which isn't going to change, it's still going to be a cost, that is in fact going to be on the manufacturers who produce the waste in the first place. At worst, it's neutral in the sense that taxpayers, who are also the consumers, are paying the cost regardless, whether they're paying for it in terms of their grocery bill or they're paying for it in taxes. But at least we're creating a new incentive to reduce the amount of waste that manufacturers are using. Today, they don't have any incentive whatsoever because it is consumers as taxpayers who are actually paying for that waste. So am I understanding the bill wrong? Is that a correct understanding?
Well, I think it is. I think you are right in that it shifts the burden of the cost to people who manufacture the product, but they will pass those costs to consumers. And the study I mentioned was an additional $40 a month in grocery bills for a family of four. So you're correct. It would shift, but in the end, it would come back to Virginia families.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick follow-up?
If we could, we've got a whole room and a whole room.
Very quick.
So
One quick one. So, Mr. Chair, I'll just follow up with the speaker. So ultimately, my understanding, though, is if we were to enact this bill, manufacturers would have an incentive because they're bearing the cost in order to drive down the amount of waste material they are using, so they reduce those costs themselves that are being passed on the consumers. Today, they don't have that. Is that correct?
I don't think they view it as an incentive. I think it's a very large and wieldy program that is going to cost a lot to comply with, and we're not even sure it's really the right direction. We actually have several initiatives here, introduced here, which would incentivize the improvement of recycling infrastructure in Virginia, and be glad to share those with you offline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
all right, thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Chairman. I'm Mike Rolban, the Director of DEQ, and I'll be short and sweet since there's so many people in line, but the position of our administration is to oppose this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Kyle Shreve, Executive Director of the Virginia Agribusiness Council. This program would cause significant harm to our forest product industry. Paper recycling is already successful. In fact, in 2020, 65% of all paper consumed in the U.S. was recovered for recycling. When you're talking about cardboard boxes, that number is even higher at 90%. And the industry pays for it in the paper industry. And so you're essentially making a tax twice on our industry and making us pay to get back. There's an incredibly high demand for paper and recycling products, and that's why we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Corey Connors, Executive Director of the Virginia Forestry Association. Just echoing Mr. Shreve's comments, our forest products industry doesn't need this bill. Between 2019 and 2023, U.S. packaging and pulp producers committed to investing more than $4.1 billion in new manufacturing capacity designed to use over 7 million additional tons of recovered paper per year to manufacture new products. In Virginia alone, our industry is investing hundreds of millions of dollars in additional capacity to do this. Just 2 weeks ago, it was announced that a $267 million investment was being made to establish a paperboard recycling and production facility at the Chesapeake Deepwater Terminal, creating 210 new jobs. Simply put, these bills would jeopardize that type of investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Susan Seward with the Virginia Forest Products Association. Associate my comments with those of Mr. Shreve and Mr. Connor. We do oppose this legislation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Kate Baker on behalf of Virginia Retail Federation. I also associate my comments with my colleagues, and we also oppose the bill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Ashley Wright, representing Mondelez International, and as others have stated, we want to associate ourselves with the previous comments and ask you to oppose the bills. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we will go to online or virtual. And if I could, since I believe Delegate Keem, your bill was pretty much identical.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members, first of all, thank you for allowing us to have this kind of an unusual but somewhat truncated process here, because it turns out, without us knowing about this in advance, Delegate Carr, Delegate Lopez, and I all worked on similar measures, and the final products look similar. There are some changes, some differences, but they are similar. My bill was presented on behalf of the town of Vienna that I represent, as well as the Northern Virginia Regional Commission that looks at this issue. So I did have a town council member from my town who wanted to speak by Zoom today, and so if there's an appropriate time, even I know it says HB 647 there, but since my HB 709 is similar in the concept, I wonder if it's appropriate for my town council member to speak in favor, and then after that you can dispose of it however you want.
Well, Delegate Keem, there is no better time than the present for your town councilman to testify, because again, as Delegate Keem pointed out, all three pieces of these legislations are pretty much identical. So that would be if he is.
That's Mr. Steve Potter, town council member.
Mr. Steve Potter from the town of Vienna. Or should we move to somebody else first and then we'll move on?
Okay, or whoever's available.
Is he on? Okay, okay.
That's what you guys are looking.
Okay, well then let's do this. Delegate Carr, let's run through the folks that are for your bill, and then as we get to the end of that, we will take Mr. Potter. So first up is Mr. Pat Calvert from Charlottesville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pat Calvert. I'm here on behalf of Virginia Conservation Network, and you'll heard and you'll hear more from manufacturers and industry with issues with this. But I would say that we can continue to kick the can down the road and basically put all the costs onto individuals and taxpayers, or we can share the costs with the manufacturers. To that end, I appreciate all the delegates who brought forth legislation and hope that you will pass this legislation, and hopefully we can get DEQ on the right side of this too. Thank you.
Next up is Miss Ellie Bomer from Richmond.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ellie Bamer with Environment Virginia, and we strongly support this bill. This concept is not new. It has been used to address waste that is difficult and costly to manage, like paint or electronics. And we're now increasingly seeing the need for this approach to packaging and single-use products. By adopting this framework, like it's been mentioned, this would shift the burdens away from localities and taxpayers to the producers of the goods. Our localities will better be able to adapt to evolving trends in materials that they're responsible for managing. And then producers will be incentivized to design their products to create less waste overall and be easily recyclable. The bill in Maine has not gone into effect yet. The rulemaking process has not started, so I'm not quite sure why prices are already up for that. But this framework will ensure long-term viability of recycling in Virginia. Producer-funded programs have double the recycling rates as taxpayer-funded ones. So we hope that you will support this proven method to increase recycling infrastructure and ensure its long-term viability in Virginia.
Thank you. Mr. Jim Depp from Virginia Beach.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Jim Deppy from Lynn Haven River Now. We strongly support this bill. We spend a lot of time with our volunteer force at this end of the waste stream, picking up thousands and thousands of pounds of trash out of our wetlands, out of our waterways, and out of our forests. We really need to reduce the amount of waste going into our environment. Last year, we picked up 12,000 pounds in Lynnhaven River Now volunteer work alone. We're working at the wrong end of the rodeo parade, if you will, and we need to shift responsibility closer to the front and so that our producers bear some responsibility in partnership with our localities in creating a recycling infrastructure and reducing the amount of waste going into our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, as we pointed out, all three bills are identical. And so speaking for the bill is Mr. Potter from Vienna. Mr. Potter? Is he in the room? Mr. Potter, please unmute your mic.
Okay, I am
There we
unmuted.
go.
Okay. Thank you. On behalf of the town of Vienna, I support this HB 709. Counties, cities, and towns throughout Vienna have spent tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars on facilities, land, equipment, personnel to collect and recycle cardboard boxes, plastic containers, and other packaging materials for disposal of non-recyclable packaging. And all of this has been done at the taxpayer's expense. As has been mentioned, this proposed legislation would switch that burden and bring the producers of the products who put this on the market some added responsibilities. ERP has been mentioned, has been put into practice in Europe and in Canada, and was approved in Maine in July of 2021, with predictions of other states soon to follow. It places a fee on producers based on their packaging choices. Payments by producers will be based on the net amount of packaging sold into the state and will take into account toxicity and as well as packaging. It will incentivize producers to not only reconsider the design and materials used in their packaging, but also to produce less packaging. Recycling is also important for environmental reasons. Producing less packaging will decrease the production of petroleum-based products and reduce greenhouse gas emissions at a time when there is a vital global need to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. Next up will be folks that are speaking against the bill. First up, we have Dan Felton.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the subcommittee. My name is Dan Felton. I'm Executive Director of Ameripen, the American Institute for Packaging and the Environment. We're a U.S.-based trade association that represents the entire packaging value chain. By that, I mean material suppliers, packaging manufacturers, brand owners who use that packaging, as well as end-of-life materials managers. Ameripen has spent significant time on this exact issue represented in these three bills over many years, and I want to be clear that Ameripen does support packaging producer responsibility and policy solutions that are results-based, efficient and effective, equitable and fair. Unfortunately, House Bills 647, 709, and 918 do not meet that test, and therefore Ameripen is opposed to all three of those bills. Some of the reasons are because we believe it establishes a mandate for packaging producers to participate in a government-run program that will only shift cost of the current recycling system and do nothing to improve that current system. It also allows for municipalities to fund the landfilling of packaging, which from the Ameripen's perspective is simply unacceptable. And it is inconsistent with existing producer responsibility programs throughout the world that integrate stakeholders in a collaborative producer organization that creates rates and solutions that incorporate real-world data and information. These bills are nothing more than a hidden tax on packaged goods that are bought by consumers. Ameripen would be happy to sit down with all stakeholders, as we have done and are currently doing in multiple states throughout the U.S., to talk about this issue and look for meaningful policy solutions to increase packaging, recycling, and recovery in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you, Chairman and members of the subcommittee. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Hobie Bond.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Poultry processors have sustainability programs that minimize waste and incorporate recycling. And we're the largest sector of agriculture. Our industry supports thousands of jobs in Virginia and billions in economic impact. And while the goals of this legislation are laudable and the issue needs to be addressed for many of the same reasons that have been stated already, we're opposed to this approach in this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Walter Reeder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Walter Ryder from the EPS Industry Alliance. We're the North American trade for expanded polystyrene packaging and insulation. We have several manufacturers in Virginia, Huntington Solutions in Radford, Atlas in Ridgeway, Cellofoam, Winchester, and Fredericksburg. They all make and recycle expanded polystyrene, and that's the much reviled rigid foam used for home grocery delivery, white goods, appliances, generally something that is heavy, expensive, and delicate. And we support what Mr. Felton has said, but I do want to mention a couple of things that Mr. Calvert and Ms. Bomer said. We do not want to kick the can down the road. We are a take-back here. All of our members are take-backs for the recycling of this material, which is recyclable. It may not be suitable in the single stream because of contamination issues and the fact that there's not so much volume to make it justifiable. And also to something that Ms. Bomer said, she said that when producers are forced to do it, they do a good job. And we do. And that's one of the points that Mr. Felton was making. We operate under extended producer responsibility in Canada quite well. And if you go on our map to try to find a take-back location, you'll see that Canada is filled. And that's what we can do here. But one of the problems with these three bills is it's really consumer-based. Now, two things are problematic there. First, the percentage of the packaging cost on the smaller items, sort of your grocery basket items, that's going to be a little larger. Now, the producers are paying it, but eventually the consumer is going to be absorbing that cost. So that's one point where this is sort of a regressive program. The other thing that I think really needs to be thought about is a lot of our recycling is built upon the B2B, the back of the store, the haulbacks, and that what needs to be incorporated because that's where the volume is to make this viable. And I guess my greater point is the expertise is here. With the packaging engineers, the packaging manufacturers, the users of the packaging, and we would be delighted to be able to participate in this to address the problems. Now, it sounded like from Delegate Carr and some of the proponents that the problem is litter.
Mr. Ryder, we still have...
Thank you, Your Honor. So, if anyone has any questions, I'd be delighted to go on. But
all right.
Apologies.
I apologize. Next up is Ms. Abigail Stein. And again, brevity is helpful.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time this afternoon. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the American Forest and Paper Association. We're the national trade association representing the forest products industry. We'd like to associate our comments with those of folks that are in the room representing the industry and appreciate your consideration.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up is Craig Cookson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Craig Cookson. I'm the Senior Director of Plastic Sustainability in the Plastics Division of the American Chemistry Council. Come here today to oppose 647, 709, and 918. First of all, I think it's important to state that there are many benefits to plastics, to all packaging, including plastics packaging. We've seen that especially during the pandemic, right? The ability to deliver safe and sanitary products, food, pharmaceuticals to people out all across the country. We actually support producer responsibility, and kind of want to echo some of the comments that Dan Felton from Ameripen mentioned. But producer responsibility needs to be producer-led, not government-led. And so there's some flaws in this. As designed. Additionally, it's important to note that last year, this legislature approved a bill to really welcome advanced recycling technologies to the state. That bill was approved, SB 1164 was approved 90-8 in the House of Delegates and 34-4 in the state Senate, and was signed into law by your former governor. And this bill, unfortunately, 647, 709, 918, disadvantage advanced recycling. And if we really want to get to higher levels of recycling, especially for the more challenging plastics, films, pouches, tubes, lids, small format packaging, we're going to need advanced recycling to take these plastics back into a feedstock for use again in new products, including food contact applications. So thank you again for your time, and stick around for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you. And last would be Mr. Thomas Blackburn.
Thank you. I think there's a mistake. I'm not testifying on support of this bill or against it. I'm waiting for HB 311, 314, and 491.
Thank you, sir. Yes. All right. Delegate Carr, would you like the last word?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the consideration of the bill, the discussion. As I said, I think one of the purposes behind this bill is to begin a discussion. As has been said by a number of people, we need to look at this now. There are a lot of stakeholders who can come to the table, and we can work together to make something happen for our future, but not to kick the can down the road. But it's a way to kind of balance out the recycling responsibilities, one, and two, to do something about the litter that we're being overwhelmed with in our environment.
Thank you, Delegate Carr. Delegate Orrock.
Mr. Chairman, first at a parliamentary inquiry, can we act on these three bills in a block, or will we need three separate motions? Whichever's easiest. Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. I move to lay House Bill 647 on the table.
We have a motion to lay 647 on the table with a second as a recordable motion. Will the clerk open the roll? Clerk will close the roll. Bill 647 is laid on the table, 6-4. If I may, Delegate Carr,
yes,
and
sir.
Lopez and Keem. In regards to this, we heard both sides of the argument in this bill say that we need to continue this discussion, right? We also have another bill from Hope as well that I'm going to be blunt. When you get something the size of a phone and the package is the size of this desk and you start looking at some of this stuff, it kind of makes you wonder. I would recommend, and I'm going to ask the chairman to send a letter, that this subject matter be added to the Virginia Recycling Task Force. That was made in effect in 2020, but because of COVID, they did not finish, so they've extended a year. So I'm going to ask Chairman Ware to make sure that this subject matter gets added to that. So with that, can we move on to, I guess, the next one? Yes, sir.
I move to lay House Bill 709 on the table.
House Bill 709 has been motioned to lay on the table properly with a second. Will the clerk please record the roll? HB 709 laid on the table, 6-4.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Orrock.
I have a motion. I move to lay House Bill 918 gently on the table with the other two.
Thank you, Delegate Orrock. So the motion is to lay HB 918 and has been properly seconded. Clerk will please open the roll. Yes, sir.
Speaking to the motion.
Delegate Wilt.
Mr. Chairman, so Delegate Carr and others, I appreciate where you're coming from. But to me, it is apparent from our testimony and what we've heard here today, I really think we're kidding ourselves if we think that something like this is not going to end up on the consumers on their checkbook. Okay, I mean it's the manufacturer is going to pass through. I mean that's how the thing works. But again, agreeing with I hear what you're saying. I would suggest maybe going forward next year or something. Maybe if this committee looks that the chair was speaking of, let's figure out a way to incentivize the manufacturers and so forth, and not penalize the consumers. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Wilt.
All right, so, sorry, did you want to? Delegate Goditis?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Quick comment. First of all, just that, speaking to the bill, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if materials used are in themselves recyclable, if we start to get that response in response to an organization or a program like this, that would be a great thing. But Mr. Chairman, I have a question sort of for the room. Is this being studied anywhere? Do we know this, Mr. Chairman?
It will be now. Yeah. We're gonna. Sorry. All right. So we have a motion that's been made to lay the bill on the table and properly seconded. Will the clerk please open the roll? Record your vote. Clerk will close the roll. Motion to lay HB 918 on the table succeeds 6-4. Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you very much.
All right, next up, since we're going to stick with the recycling theme, Delegate Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. This is House Bill 626 and 826. I was just checking, see if you were paying attention. 826, Mr. Chairman, and members of the subcommittee. What I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly explain the bill, and I'd like the people that want to speak in support of the bill to have a chance to talk, and the people in opposition to also briefly, emphasis on briefly, to oppose the bill. But I like where you're going, Mr. Chairman. I do think this is something that needs to be further studied, and I would make the motion, someone would make the motion to, and I would support to lay the bill on the table with a letter from the committee chair to ask that this be studied at the Waste Diversion and Recycling Task Force. So with your indulgence, I'd like to briefly present the bill at the conclusion of my presentation. What we're trying to do with House Bill 826 is have a beverage container deposit return system in Virginia. We would join 10 other states in doing so. If we did do this, we created it this way, we'd help reduce litter, cut carbon emissions, and save costs on trash cleanup in communities across the Commonwealth. Under the proposed design before you, Mr. Chairman, Virginia residents will have access to an environmentally and economically sustainable collection system for all beverage containers. Modeling shows that with a beverage container deposit system has about 90% redemption rate, Virginians would be recycling 1.2 billion more beverage cans than what they're currently recycling today. When those additional 1.2 billion of beverage cans recycled instead of going to the landfill, it will generate more than $19 million in revenue and produce energy savings to power nearly 475 million homes for 1 hour. The system would place a refundable fee on beverage containers at the point of sale. It would establish a nonprofit producer responsibility organization to administer the program. It would set mandatory targets for the percentage of containers to be redeemed, and it would require retailers greater than a certain size to host redemption centers that the PRO finances and operates. It would not place an undue burden on consumers. It would say it will not cost the state money, and it will not give preference to containers with no resale value. The system is needed right now more than ever before, and I hope that we do study this and take their recommendations very seriously next year. Virginia spends about $3.5 million a year on roadway litter cleanup.
that's VDOT, is spending that $3.5 million taxpayers' dollars. There's an opportunity to collect more from these containers, and landfill beverage containers contribute directly to carbon emissions. This is a win-win situation if we can get this right and have everyone together and have this discussion. So, Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like you to turn it over to supporters and opposition.
Okay. Thank you. Real quick, since we have a predetermined notion of where the bill is going, if anybody would like to speak in favor, please keep it very, very brief. All right. All in favor, please come speak to the bill. Anybody else? All right. Is there anybody opposed? All right. We operate by motion. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I apologize. Delegate Willett, please.
Thank you, Chair. I still felt to speak on this bill, at least my state. I was a college freshman at William and Mary, and I won't say long, let's say the 80s. And my introductory government professor was George Grayson. I think some of you here, Theodora may recognize that name. But he was also a delegate and also carrying bottle bills back then. So I feel it's my fate now to sit here and hear a bottle bill all these years later. But I do encourage the committee to do, I think as we're moving towards to continue to look at this, I'm an absolute advocate for recycling. I want to do it the right way and encourage an incentive to make that happen. I don't know if this is the absolute best way to do that, but I certainly think it needs to be looked at. And I appreciate the committee's willingness to keep this conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Ora.
Mr. Chairman, I move to lay on the table.
The motion to lay HB 826 on the table has been made and properly seconded. Clerk, please open the roll. We will record their vote. Come on, works.
It's okay.
There we go. Clerk will close.
I'm okay with I'm okay with this.
Want to switch? You want to switch or you good?
Mr. Chair,
No, we haven't closed the roll yet. No, we're good. We're good. All right. Clerk will close the roll. And again, we will add this to the
Thank you,
task
Mr.
force
Chairman. I
deal.
appreciate the subcommittee's time.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Delegate Hope. Next up is Delegate Bulova. I believe, sorry.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're going from recycling to noxious weeds at this point. And I do have
covering a wide range.
We are covering a lot of ground, and the evening is still young. But Mr. Chair, I do have a substitute.
Okay. Could you explain what your substitute does? Yeah. Yeah. This would be 491.
491. And Mr. Chair, what I can do is I can explain the bill.
That would be fantastic.
And that way, I can point out what changed from the original to
that would be
to that
fantastic, Delegate Bulova. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So, Mr. Chair, I think we're all aware of some of the more egregious examples of invasive plant species that are out there. Kudzu is kind of that one that comes to mind when you think of just acres and acres of... Yes, sir.
Hold on, Delegate Bulova. Could we have the folks in the hall kind of temper down? I want to make sure we get... Don't close it, but ask them to be quiet, please. Delegate Bulova. Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you very much. So anyways, kudzu is kind of that prime example, and most people don't realize that was actually purposefully introduced back in the 1930s as an erosion and sediment control method. That was obviously not a smart choice, and according to the U.S. Department of Forestry, we actually lose 2,500 acres a year to kudzu invasions. And so with increased globalization, that's really kind of just the tip of the iceberg. There are actually 90 plant species that are on the Department of Conservation and Recreation's invasive plant species list right now that are known to harm the ecosystem and agriculture. And I just wanted to mention, in addition to kind of the ecosystem harm, there is a real economic cost, particularly for our localities. that really literally spend millions of dollars each year trying to remove these plants from the environment. The issue that this bill is trying to get at is that many of the invasive species that are on that DCR list are still sold in our landscape and nursery stores. And so we wanted to figure out how do you go ahead and address that issue without being overly punitive towards our nurseries and our landscapers. Last year, we passed a study bill to go ahead and look at that issue. This bill picks up on the recommendations from that study that met throughout the summer, and then actually builds on them with further conversations that we've had with Agribusiness and the Nursery Association, the Native Plant Society, and other groups. So really briefly, Mr. Chair, this bill does a couple of things. The first one is just to make it a little bit easier to put invasive plants on the noxious plants list. And so only plants that are actually defined as noxious are plants that VDACs can actually control the sale of or prohibit the sale of. The problem is that a plant can't be declared noxious if it is commercially viable in Virginia. And so I want you to think about how problematic that definition is, because almost anything is commercially viable in Virginia, whether it's actually being produced here or not. And so that is one of the reasons why that noxious weeds list is actually very, very little. What this bill does, the most important part of the bill, quite honestly, is replace viable with commercially significant. And so that raises the bar a little bit, and it's also a lot easier to define. And so that's one of the things that this bill does, is direct VDACs to actually come up with a definition of what significant is, so you kind of have a really good sense of what's in and what's out. One of the things that we changed in the bill was to have a delayed enactment of that change in definition until VDACs actually defined it. And so Agribusiness, I think, was rightly concerned that they didn't want to have to implement something that we didn't know the definition of. And so that part is delayed until July 1, 2023. The second part of this deals with public education. So a lot of homeowners or businesses will purchase invasive plants without actually knowing that they're invasive. And so what the bill does is it directs VDACs to create a sign that provides information about the potential harm of invasive species. And then it provides an electronic link so that a customer who's interested could go to that DCR invasive plant list. And then each nursery would just have to post one of these in a conspicuous spot. So that was another thing that changed in this bill. Originally, it was you're going to list all of these species on a sign. That gets unwieldy. It gets updated. And so we all agreed, it makes sense to go ahead and do one sign, and then you can direct the customer there. And then there's a couple of enactment clauses. So these include updating the invasive plant species list at least once every 4 years, making sure that the Commonwealth leads by example. So making sure that our state agencies don't use the invasive plants unless it's for some kind of educational or research purposes. And then finally, directs VDACs to develop some regulations so that contract planters, if they're going to use invasive species on somebody's property, go ahead and notify them. So it doesn't prohibit it, but it says, hey, just a heads up, we're proposing this. And I would note that the Virginia Society of Landscape Architects actually came out in support of this bill. So they're cognizant and supportive of that approach. And lastly, it addresses a Farm Bureau concern. And so it's illegal to move a noxious weed. But if you've got a noxious weed that's mixed up in agriculture, technically you're breaking the law if you're going ahead and bundling that up and you get a noxious weed and moving it someplace else. And so we just wanted to make sure it was crystal clear that if this is a bona fide agricultural activity, that you're not getting in trouble with the law just because you got noxious weeds that are growing in your crop. So, Mr. Chair, that's another thing that we went ahead and added in there in the substitute. As you know, sometimes you work really, really, really hard with stakeholders in order to be able to get them to neutral, and that's your victory. And so we worked very hard with the Nursery Association and Agribusiness. We really appreciate them taking this seriously, and my understanding is that they are neutral on the bill, and just want to thank you for your consideration. It is a very, very important topic, both for our economy and also ecologically. And I know there's some people who'd be happy to speak to the bill, but that's what it does, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Delegate Bulva. First, I'd like to get the bill properly before us. So is there a motion to adopt the substitute? There's been a motion and seconded to properly adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The substitute
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Orrock.
question of the patron. Delegate Bulova, we have an invasive species work group already in existence, correct?
That is correct.
Follow up with me, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Orrock.
Is this in any way, shape, or form a recommendation from them, or is this something they've had on their agenda, something they're currently looking at?
Yeah, a lot.
In either the original or the substitute version.
Sure. So a lot of the folks who were on that invasive species work group are also people who were brought in for the larger work group that was tasked by us to try to come up with some recommendations. And so it's really that larger work group that we put a resolution in place that worked with VDAX and DCR that came up with these recommendations. But the membership does overlap.
Delegate Orrock.
So I'm not sure I heard a yes or a no there. Is this a recommendation?
Not of that particular group. Okay. But I don't know that is necessarily their role.
And one further, if I may, Mr. Chairman. In substitute line 92, we're telling the work group to come up with a budget request for full implementation. Do we have any idea how much that might be?
No, sir.
Okay.
And I think that's exactly why we wanted them to go ahead and get their arms around this. And so I put in some budget amendments for enhancing invasive species education, as well as helping property owners with a cost share program to remove invasive species. But I think the idea here is, to go ahead and work in the interim to figure out how big of a budget we would need to put in to be able to effectuate that.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have one further at least. Mr. Chairman, also question on line 61, we're now requiring the commissioner to develop signage that will be at every nursery and retail plant outlet, so I presume every Lowe's, Home Depot, anywhere that sells landscaping materials, to my local hardware store. They would develop signage that then the retailer would have to purchase and I presume display in a prominent place. Is that what the effect of that would be?
Mr. Chair, the intent is that if you're selling plants and that you would go ahead and put the sign up. I will go ahead and say that it is not the responsibility of the owner to go ahead and purchase it. This is something that VDAX would actually develop and send out. So it's not a cost to your nursery or your Lowe's or anything like that.
So part of the budget ask?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Delegate Ferris, question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, a question for the patron.
Delegate Ferris.
These invasive species, how are they controlled?
How are they controlled?
Right. I mean, how do the homeowners or the landowners control these invasive species?
Well, and Mr. Chairman, a lot of times they are really tough to go ahead and control, and so your only option is either manually removing them or using herbicides and other chemicals to go ahead and kill them. A great example is a lot of species of bamboo that you can find out there are highly invasive, and you can cut them back all you want, but they're going to pop up, and so you got no choice but to go ahead and use chemical means to go ahead and get rid of those plants.
I'm just concerned if you. I'll just make a statement. I'm just concerned if you're going to expand the list, what cost that'll be to landowners.
Mm-hmm. Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question could be premature. I see some folks lining up. Maybe, so I'll just throw it out right now, Delegate Bulova. So invasive species, you mentioned the nurseries, and why wouldn't we just full-throated roll right in here and ban those things? Maybe too much. But, I would like to add.
I suspect you'll hear from agribusiness and others that they don't want to go down that road because some of these species do make them a lot of money. They're popular. In a perfect world, if something's invasive to the point where it's noxious, you would stop selling it. But again, given where we are, where it's really hard to get something on the list because the definition is viable, a step in the right direction is making sure that we're kind of nipping things in the bud and that significant goes ahead and gets us there. I will say to Delegate Ferris, there's nothing in here that says if something goes on the noxious weeds list that you got to go to your garden and start ripping the stuff off or sip stuff out. It just means that our nurseries can't continue to go ahead and contribute to that problem by selling it on the open market.
Delegate Simons, you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for the patron.
Go ahead.
I noticed over the holidays at Trader Joe's, they have these really nice ivy wreaths. And I bought one and I didn't know how to dispose of it because I suspected it was English ivy. So would your bill have, like, at a store like Trader Joe's, would they have like a sign saying what they were selling was noxious or invasive, or is there some way that I would be able to look that up on VDAX?
So Mr. Chair, and I'm going to kind of phone a friend because I know we got somebody here from VDAX who could answer technical questions if I understand. And so maybe you can kind of help with respect to the definition of retail plant outlet and nursery, because there is a defined universe.
Well, if we could, could you mark that, and then when we testimony, because I've got a couple more delegates who would like questions, and then we'll take testimony real quick. Delegate Gudaitis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to comment that I have my very own chainsaw, and I go out and spend hours and hours cutting down Bradford pears and whatever those olive trees are.
Tree I have.
Russian olive, yeah.
Olive olive. Delegate Helmer.
They don't really make olives or pears.
Mr. Chair, quick question for the patron.
Delegate Helmer.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to ask the delegate, we heard a little bit from some of the other questions about costs of compliance, the future budget amendment, things like that. Can you give us a sense of what the cost is to localities, the Commonwealth, both overall in terms of scale, even not exact number, to deal with this issue, as well as what are the actual impacts of this invasive species? Because this seems like a relatively
small piece of work of informing people rather than mandating something. And so I just want to understand what we're trying to fix.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Mr. Chair. And so just in terms of Fairfax County's efforts to go ahead and remove these invasive plants from their property, and I'm sure they're inadequate, it's about $1 million per year. I think Arlington County is about $500,000. And so that also doesn't count private property owners who have to spend time to go ahead and remove these from their own properties. So it adds up pretty quickly when you look at it.
Last question, Delegate Runyon.
Mr. Chair, question of the patron.
Delegate Runyon.
So does this would include roadside stands, farmers markets, all this that would sell plants both on a year-round and a seasonal basis? And so have we identified the comprehensive nature of where all these signs would need to go and the requirements for my grandchildren selling plants down by the roadside stand to be in compliance? And that's really my concern. I support the concept of invasive species control. I'm not sure we're going in the right direction.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think that's an excellent question because you definitely don't want to capture every single roadside stand that's selling petunias. And I do hope that VDAX, I do think that they keep a list of ones that are regulated, and I think that might help to assuage your concerns, but I'll rely on his expertise.
Thank you, Delegate Bova. With the committee done doing questions, we'll start with testimony. Do we want to, all those here to speak, either favor, against, or I guess neutral?
Mr. Chairman, because we did negotiate on the bill, I'll go ahead and speak first if that's okay in the will of the committee. Kyle Shreve on the Virginia Agribusiness Council. We are neutral on the bill, but I think I can answer at least some of those questions, and then I'll yield to VDAX if there is. To Delegate Runyon's question, there are licensed nurserymen and retail outlets, and those would be the ones that would be required under the bill, and VDAX can back me up on that if I'm speaking out of turn, but we do have a regulated list of which I represent. This bill comes out of a House Joint Resolution 527 that the delegate put in last year, and I did serve on that work group along with VNLA as a joint effort between the Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And so we did work on this quite a bit with the acknowledgement that anyone selling an invasive species, and I think it's very, very important to distinguish between terms, and we had a very long discussion about this at the work group. There is a very big definitional difference between something that is non-native something that is native. And by the way, something that is native in one section of Virginia can be non-native or invasive in another. And so to the delegate's question earlier, the reason we don't just ban invasives is because it's very hard to tell, and some things are not invasive if they are properly managed. And so what we have seen is, again, a lack of consumer knowledge about how to properly manage those products. And we do use quite a bit of control chemistry, and we're going to hear about that again later on today. Mark that down because I'm going to bring it up again in a few minutes.
Controlled chemistry.
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, that's absolutely correct, in which we use to help mitigate the effects of invasive species. So with regards to the signage, we did work out the language with Delegate Bulova, and we appreciate him working on this entire bill. It was a concern of ours that we were going to have undefined terms in the code and be at the will of the enforcement of VDACs without any clear guidance about what those terms meant. And so I appreciate the time. We have a year and a half to work that out in order to set some parameters around what significance means at the retail level, what can go, and just for the subcommittee's knowledge, we do have a noxious weeds committee. I serve on it, as well as members of the industry and members of the community that are concerned about this, in which they would submit, and they do submit, applications to put certain species on the noxious weed list. And we use certain criteria to evaluate it, and that's what this bill attempts to do, is to change that criteria in order to help us evaluate with our experts from Cooperative Extension and Virginia Tech, as well as those experts at VDACs, to help us evaluate that and make those decisions and try to prevent the spread of the worst ones. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Delegate Orrock, do you have a question?
On the signage,
Yes, sir.
y'all worked with the language, but what good's it going to do, candidly? I mean, maybe it's just me. When I go to these places, I don't look around at the signs that may be posted. I go in with the thought in mind of buying whatever I'm looking for. And what is this going to accomplish as it relates to banning invasive species, given that the place I'm buying from can't sell them?
Mr. Chairman and Delegate Orrock, I will say that, again, going back to not just banning it, but properly managing it, there is information on DCR's website about not only certain invasive species, but how to properly manage those. And so even then, if you're going to make a decision about what you put on your property when it comes to any type of plant or species, more consumer information, the better. The original bill had us list every single invasive species on that list. That list is updated. It is not a regulatory list or in the Code of Virginia at all. And so it can be updated at any point in time at DCR's will. With it, they have used a standard criteria that they adopted as a result of the work group, but there's nothing to hold them that. And so our concern was that was going to change very, very regularly and have to produce numerous amounts of signage and information being sent out. It was easier just to say, information will be updated on DCR's website and have it use a QR code.
If we could, next, and then we'll go online, and if we can, keep it brief. It's getting hot.
My name is Will Shaw. I live in Louisa County. I don't represent anybody but myself. I'm neutral on the bill. There are a couple of features that I think are a bit heavy-handed, like your granddaughter's roadside stand selling pansies. It's got to have signage. That can be fixed by changing a shall to a may. But a number of features of the bill are worthy of your consideration. Invasive alien plant species is a big problem. Plant and animal species together nationwide cost $150 billion a year to try to control. The problem with our current system with the non-binding invasive species list and the non-energetic noxious weed council is that things are introduced and well established and hopelessly entrenched and uncontrollable by the time anybody gets around to consider sticking them on the noxious weeds list. I mean, Ailanthus stink tree had just made the list a year ago, and we've known it's invasive for 30 years. So there's a lot of features in this bill that are, I think, very important. I have timberland. I have to control for ailanthus and autumn olive. It gets old after a while, particularly when, autumn olive's still being sold and down to the local garden supply. The buyer has no clue what they're buying. There's nothing saying, hey, this is a potential problem species before you buy it. So take it into account.
Thank you very much. All right. I guess let's go to the virtual. We have 4 folks virtual, and if you all could keep it pretty short. Miss Nancy Veers.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. My name is Nancy Veers, and I serve as the president of the Virginia Native Plant Society. I'm a resident of Prince William County. Virginia is filled with natural beauty, and that includes its native plants. Invasive plants are running rampant and destroying many natural areas. I fear that when children of today think of spring, they will think of the Asian Bradford pears that line our highways instead of our lovely native redwoods and dogwoods. Seeing impenetrable forests with trees covered with the vines of English ivy, winter creeper, and oriental bittersweet could become the norm. This is a tragedy, and we must take steps to fight this invasion and reduce the sale of many of these plants in our Commonwealth. Passing this bill, HB 491, is one of those steps. I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Thomas Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm the president of the 5,000-member Audubon Society of Northern Virginia. Non-native and invasive plants crowd out natives. They don't support pollinators, and when there's no pollinators, and it doesn't support birds and other wildlife. The problem is that many people who buy these plants simply don't know that they're non-native and invasive. Our organization has a major program that sends volunteers out to property owners to give them advice on how to improve their habitat on their property by removing invasives and planting natives in their stead. The thing we find over and over again is that people simply don't know that what they bought is an invasive plant. One of our board members just told me today that she had to remove Nandina plants that she didn't realize were invasive and were just sort of taking over her yard. This bill will help educate the public so they can make an informed choice as to what are the right plants to plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Pat Calvert.
Mr. Chair, Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network again. Very appreciative to all of the folks who came in, all the stakeholders, and put forth a truly good faith effort, authentically engaged to come to this compromise. And with that, I would like to voice our support for this legislation. Thank you, Delegate Bolova.
Thank you. Dan Holmes.
Hi, Dan Holmes. I'm with the Piedmont Environmental Council. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee for the opportunity to speak to the bill. I just wanted to say thanks to the patron for working so hard with all the members of the working group and interested parties on this legislation. I do think it represents compromise. It's not perfect, but it does put a step forward on trying to address some of the bigger problems that are out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Delegate Bolova, you have the last word.
Mr. Chairman, you've been very gracious with your time. It was a very good discussion. I think it is an important step forward for a big issue, and just appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, move to report.
All right.
Discussion on the motion to report.
Delegate Orrock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Boulevard, I understand the problem. You know, being an old country boy raised on the farm, I hear you, and understand what you're trying to get to. I'm just not comfortable. This is the best vehicle to get us there. I know we've got the invasive species working group, and I hope they will come together with a more workable plan. I see pieces of this that I like, other pieces of it that I think truly don't affect much of anything, and I do have concern that we're going to be charging them with coming up with a budget request. Obviously, we get to approve it or not, but it's kind of saying you're going to have to do and implement all these things, and we're telling you you've got to, and we don't know what it's going to cost, but then you're going to tell us what it costs after we told you you've got to do it. And so I think there's a disconnect there. So while I'm sympathetic to what you're trying to do and appreciate your efforts, because it is an improvement over the original bill, I think, made some agricultural acknowledgments, I'm still not comfortable with the measure. And personally, I would hope that we could let the bill be carried over for the coming session and studied under Rule 22 by the House Committee, and that would also keep it more than just a focus of a letter from the chairman. If a carryover and the committee says we're going to study it, then we're going to look at the measure personally. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. I'm sorry. I thought Delegate O'Rourke had already made a substitute motion.
No, I hadn't.
No, the current motion is to report with a proper second. Are you?
Mr. Chairman, if no one else is speaking, I have a motion. I'd move that we recommend carryover under Rule 22.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I have I'd like to second the motion and speak to that, please.
So there's a motion to carry over with a substitute. Carry over with a substitute with a second. Y'all, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Bullock, I echo Delegate O'Rourke's sentiment. I mean, conceptually, I'm with you. I just, man, there's to me, there's a lot of moving parts here. And is continuing, I guess, continuing study, as we heard earlier, if we say to be studied. I know you've worked on it, and I appreciate the group's efforts. Hopefully we can give some insight, some questions we like to see answered, but also you're very capable, and you've heard our questions here today, and so, yeah, I'm going to have to side with Delegate O'Rourke, but I really appreciate what you're doing here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will say, I appreciate that. We could have another bite at the apple, because I know that this probably has a letter to appropriations, and so there is an opportunity to
Mr. Chairman.
Continue that conversation. But
Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell Delegate Bullock in this study, or you if you're writing a letter, let's see if we can get something that is impact statement.
Thank you. Current motion is to carry over the substitute, recommend continue, and has been properly seconded. All those in favor? All right, it's a voice vote. Say aye. Aye. All those against? No. Ayes have it. Thank you, Delegate
Thank you for your
Boulevard.
time. I really appreciate it.
All right, Delegate Krizik. Now, since we've had, I guess we got native and noxious, both.
No, yeah.
Again?
Well, Mr. Chairman, so I was unaware of the amendment that he had. So one of his amendments included my second bill, which is the signage one. The difference is with that bill is my bill would not compel or cost anything. It's really more of a watered down version of it, and Delegate O'Rourke might be right. It might not have any impact at all. But I do find when I go to the hardware store or the garden center, I ask, and sometimes they just don't have any clue. And if there was a way that they could, if they had the opportunity to have the signs, that would be great. But that's all that bill does is it just says that that they can get the signs online from the department. It's not any kind of it's not a they must or shall or anything like that. It's really it's not there's no compulsion or anything, and there's no cost to it. So that's bill number 314. So if you want a very light version of what you just killed, that's what that does.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a potential suggestion to the delegate if he'd be amenable, and that would be that we would amend this measure where it would not be in code, but rather be a Section 1 bill, charging the Department of Agriculture to come up with a model statement that hopefully would be made available to the retail community where it could be distributed at the point of sale, explaining further details or on the website or whatever, something of that nature.
Sure, I'd be amenable to that, Mr. Chairman.
Second that motion.
And so in concept, Mr. Chairman, if we
He hasn't made the motion yet.
and bless her heart, Lisa's got too many irons in the fire as it is, but before before a full committee, if she can come up with that language in the subcommittee, I would suggest if we could approve it as concept. And then if the patron be amenable, make that language available to all the subcommittee before the full committee so we can see it and potentially weigh in. But my motion then would be, Mr. Chairman, in concept, that we would turn this into a Section 1 bill directing the department to come up with some information that could then be made available at the retail level point of sale.
All right, so after having heard all of that testimony on the signage of Delegate Bowersville, is there a motion? Is there a motion on the bill, Delegate Orrock?
I move to recommend reporting as substitute.
Is there a second? The motion to report with a substitute has been made and seconded. The committee, will the clerk open the roll? Please record your vote. Clerk will close the roll. Recommends reporting HB 314, 10-0. Congratulations, Delegate Krzyk.
All right.
That was the fastest bill today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Delegate Orrock. This
Delegate
other
Krzyk, 311?
311. And I do have some folks who want to testify on 311, and hopefully they'll be quick. This one's a little bit different. Here, what we're doing, we're not talking about noxious plants or anything like that. We're talking about good old Virginia flora and our native species. So what this bill 311 will do is it just directs the Secretaries of Natural and Historic Resources, Ag and Forestry, and Administration to coordinate development of strategic actions for state agencies to take to prioritize the use of plant species native to the Commonwealth on state-owned properties only. And doesn't compel anything, doesn't cost anything, and it strategies could include things like identifying state properties appropriate to convert to natural communities and native species habitats. It could be that it encourages state agencies to prioritize native plants and trees when they purchase for installation on state property, like VDOT. Provide guidance to them. I don't need to tell you how important native plant species are, especially the pollinators and everything else. And we've already heard about the losses due to invasive plants. But so this would keep the state from actually planting invasive, or it would discourage them. Let's put it that way. And this would be, they're already doing this. The VDOT already has this program similar to this with the pollinator habitat. The Department of Conservation and Recreation also already has a similar policy for DCR properties. So this is it's really setting a standard and a role model, providing guidance. That's all it is. It doesn't mandate anything, and it doesn't cost anything.
All right. Questions from the committee? Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, when you, in the bill, when you say use, how do you define use?
What line are we on? The 27? Prioritize the use. It's really
yes.
The use of native plant species. The planting, put it in the ground. It's not. It's no other.
That's what we do with plants.
Yeah, we plant them, right? It's not harvesting them or anything like that. Yeah, I don't. We can have
could be used for bedding, or I guess that's what Tony and I want to know. Is it?
Delegate Ferris, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess that's what Tony and I are talking about. Is if it's something that's used for bedding that isn't planted.
Oh, you mean like a mulch?
So an alternative use besides planting.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'd take a friendly amendment. We could just change that to plant.
Yeah, building a bench using, it's.
No, I see what you're saying. Like use them. Yeah.
Tables. Yeah, and I guess while I'm speaking, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay. I trust that our state employees, what kind of brought it to my attention is VDOT. Fescue is not native to Virginia. There's a lot of plants that are very good plants to have here, but they're just not native to Virginia. They're not invasive. But I just would like for us to keep that in mind as we go down this path.
Mr. Chairman, this bill would not make it so that they couldn't use fescue. It's like I said, this is not a mandate. And we can change that to planting, because I don't want it to be misconstrued.
All right.
Would you like to hear from the?
Yeah, I believe so. It's time for testimony, and if we could keep it brief, just a couple of minutes each side. We'll take yours first and then move to virtual.
Will Shaw, Louisa County, speaking on behalf of myself as a landowner. Nothing in this bill is onerous. It compels no individual or even an agency to any particular behavior. It doesn't ban any plant or the planting of any plant. It merely obliges certain agencies to develop recommendations for other agencies or even their own selves. I'll give you an example. The Virginia Department of Forestry has been propagating and selling invasive species for over 30 years. This is our own state agency. They're contributing to the problem. Just 2 years ago, they finally stopped selling Korean lespedeza, an invasive species. Just a year ago, or within the past year, they stopped selling the Chinese oak, another invasive species. Clearly, agencies need to do a better job at talking to themselves, and this bill, I think, will help.
All right. Thank you, sir. So next we'll go online. I guess Miss Nancy Bears.
Hi. Again, I'm Nancy Beers, president of the Virginia Native Plant Society. This is a tiny baby step toward prioritizing native plants, and the Virginia Native Plant Society supports it. Thank you.
Pat Calvert.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. On behalf of Audubon Society of Northern Virginia, who led this work, it is the position of the organization to support this and hope that this subcommittee will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President of Audubon Society of Northern Virginia, and we enthusiastically support this bill for the reasons that I explained with respect to the concerns with respect to non-native and invasive plants. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, Mr. Dan Holt.
Hi, Dan Holmes, Piedmont Environmental Council. We support the bill, and I'll just add that this might also provide some cost savings with regard to maintenance of state properties. So for those reasons and others, we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Delegate Krizik, would you like the last word?
I do know that, as you see, there's nobody here in opposition, so that's a good thing. But as I said, this is really, it is, as you heard, it's a baby step, but it's a good, positive step, and it takes care of the noxious problem that we heard earlier, because what we're doing is we're promoting our good Virginia plants. So, and we can, and like I said, we can change the word use to planting, so it can read prioritize the planting of native plant species rather than the use of. I think that would work for you. But it's up, we can do that now, or if it gets to the full committee, we can make that change. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
Thank you, Delegate Krizik. Delegate Orrock, do you have a? Go ahead.
You want me to do that?
No, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, I move lay on the table.
All right, you second? All right. Delegate Orrock has made the motion to lay the bill on the table, followed by second, Delegate Wright. That is a non-debatable motion. So, clerk, please open the roll. I'm doing this gently.
You're gonna. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, clerk will close the roll. HB 311 is laid on the table. Thank you, Delegate Krzyk.
Thank you.
All right. Gotten some communications from Delegate Leftwich. He, very much like Delegate Williams-Graves, would like to carry over his bill into next year because evidently it still needs quite a bit of work. So is there a motion? There was a motion to carry the bill over to 2023 by Delegate Wright. Is there a second? Okay, that motion has been made and seconded. Is this a voice vote? All those in favor of carrying over Delegate Leftwich's bill number, what number is it? 1074, say aye. 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 All those opposed? 1074 is carried over.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Delegate Warrock.
just so folks know, parliamentarily, the subcommittee didn't carry it over. These bills are here on the full committee docket, where there will be a recorded vote that that's what the full committee action was.
I apologize.
Just so folks know, there will be an official vote to carry over at full committee level. We don't have the authority to do so.
Yeah, I apologize. We recommend. We recommend. Delegate Tran. Did you have one? Oh, you've got the. Okay. Delegate Tran.
Okay.
No, we'll take Paraquat.
Paraquat. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about House Bill 1089 today. When Virginians go to work, we all should have an understanding that we put of the risk of our workplaces. This bill would ask the Virginia Department of Health to create a fact sheet that farmers would distribute to the people who apply paraquat to their crops, and to keep a list in their files of who is applying it on their who's receiving the fact sheet that would be available online, and would ask the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to start to gather information where paraquat is used and applied in Virginia. Paraquat is one of the most widely used herbicides in the United States, with over 8.5 million pounds of it used on crops every year. It's used to control weeds and used on crops such as soybeans, cotton, corn, and peanuts. And by all accounts, people agree paraquat is dangerous. The EPA lists it on its website. Paraquat is highly toxic. Literally, one small sip can be fatal, and there is no magic elixir to bring you back to life. That's why the EPA has enacted strict packaging requirements for paraquat and requires all paraquat applicators to be certified. You actually have to take an online training in order to apply it to crops, and my staff have taken that training, so we're well aware of it. These actions are meant to prevent accidental ingestion and to reduce exposure to workers. And by all accounts, there has been no reports of people, workers in Virginia, becoming poisoned by paraquat. But the EPA does not address any potential linkages between paraquat and Parkinson's disease. And this whole issue was brought to me by a constituent who's very passionate through his own experience with Parkinson's. The EPA did a literature review on the connection between paraquat and Parkinson's, and it found, quote, limited but insufficient epidemiologic evidence of a clear and associative or causal relationship in an occupational setting. I just want to be really clear because I think this might be a point of discussion later on. The EPA did not say there's no linkages, but that it basically says there's just limited or insufficient. So it might exist. Because research from the U.S. National Institute of Health and the National Toxicology Program, which is a program within the Department of Health and Human Services, have shown that paraquat exposure can increase an individual's likelihood of developing Parkinson's. On top of that, paraquat exposure mimics Parkinson's disease so well that it's often used in research of one of the ways to induce and study Parkinsonism in animal models of the disease. And so I want to be clear, my bill does not ban the use of paraquat in Virginia, and it does not stop farmers in Virginia from using it. We're simply trying to give farm workers information about some of the public health risks associated with paraquat and to begin gathering information and give our state an understanding of where this herbicide is used. I look forward to the questions this afternoon.
Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, let's begin with testimony. If we could keep it very brief, it's getting late. All those in favor of the legislation? Okay, Mr. Clerk, is there anybody online? Nope, okay. Those against the legislation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the subcommittee, Kyle Shreve, Virginia Agribusiness Council. We do oppose the bill as unnecessary. It's important to note that the EPA did just conduct its review and did find that there was not enough evidence to support a linkage between Parkinson's disease or cancer and the use of paraquat. It's also important to note that it's not just paraquat that you have to be certified and trained to use. It is all pesticides and herbicides in Virginia. In fact, we spend an awful lot of time working with VDACs on that pesticide use training for not just agricultural uses, but non-agricultural uses as well. And so we do believe this sets a precedent in which you would have to start collecting data on our 16,000 registered products in Virginia, which would take an awful lot of time and effort. Is just simply unnecessary. It is a very restricted use product. And those that have to use it have to go through an awful lot of training to be able to do so, and therefore we oppose the bill. Thank
Delegate
you, Mr.
Orrock, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Orrock.
Would this not establish at least a precedent of potential liability in that we put things on the books for a reason? And so obviously this would be the first, and we would be saying of all the plethora of chemicals that may be used in the ag industry, this one we've made suspect, shall we say.
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Orrock, that is absolutely a concern for those of our producers that do use it, and it would be something that would be quantified and used against our producers for using a perfectly legal product that is very highly regulated both by the EPA and VDACs. I'd also note that, as I mentioned before, and as Delegate Ferris brought up, these are used as weed control products on a thing that the committee just expressed we have a problem with in invasives. And so making it harder for our producers to use it simply stunts our efforts in other areas.
So this is where controlled chemistry comes into play?
This is it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Stephanie Talon with Virginia Farm Bureau. I will be brief and just echo the comments by Mr. Shreve. And I will also just add that with regards to paraquat, in addition to the training required to be a certified applicator to use a restricted use pesticide, there is federally required paraquat-specific training to use that as well. So those who are using and applying that product would receive that information. In addition, the federal label for paraquat requires that safety information be put on that label, and that label is required to be placed on all containers of paraquat. So we do believe this information is out there, and for that reason, we ask you to oppose the bill. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I've just been notified that we have a couple of folks that have joined us virtually that would like to speak for the bill. First up, I guess, Mr. Tom Blackburn, and please keep it brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be very brief. Audubon Society of Northern Virginia does support the bill not only because of the potential public health issues with respect to people. Paraquat also is harmful to many forms of wildlife. And so whatever additional information we can get out there about it, I think would be good. Thank you.
All right, next up would be, who's next?
Mr. Chair, I think Robert might be my
Robert.
constituent, Bob Pearson.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair, Mr. Chairman, and the delegates. Thank you for serving our Commonwealth. I'm a disabled combat veteran from Vietnam, totally and permanently disabled due to Agent Orange, which is a neurotoxin like paraquat. As Delegate Tran mentioned, I'm the one who suggested to her to introduce this legislation. I really appreciate it, Delegate Tran. So these toxins are war chemicals, whether it's used by military or whether it's used in agriculture to fight weeds. I believe it is our duty as Virginians to help our brave farmers who are out there on the front lines in this pandemic to keep them safe and their families safe. Parkinson's is not a good disease to have. It robs you of your mobility, your walking, your ability to talk to your family. I'm lucky because I haven't gone down all the way yet. But it's called the shaking paralysis by Dr. Parkinson's 200 years ago. This bill does not ban paraquat. It helps to inform these brave workers and to start collecting data on the epidemiology of where it's being used. It's very important that we keep our farm workers safe. This does nothing to stop industry. It costs nothing, and it could save lives. This is from my heart. This is not about money. This is not about regulation. This is to save the families. I've been to conferences all around the world, and I've talked to families who have been impacted by Parkinson's and herbicides. We've got to be careful with them. Now, very importantly, please listen up. Parkinson's can be done through inhalation. When you're mixing paraquat with water, you've got to be the most careful because that's when it's concentrated. And it's over time. You know, it might take 5 years to do the damage. So they've got to be very careful and understand the impact this could have long term. $50 billion a year is spent on Parkinson's, and it's the fastest growing neurological disease in the world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments, and thank you again for serving our Commonwealth.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
Delegate Goditis, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to thank the man who just spoke. I think we can't gather more information on the damage these chemicals can do unless we're gathering information on the damage these chemicals can do. So I support this bill for that reason. And it's how we go forward and determine what is dangerous and in what ways it is dangerous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Tran, would you like the last word?
I would just like to add, Mr. Chairman, that this bill is supported by the Michael J. Fox Foundation, who does tremendous work and research around Parkinson's, but she was unable to join us today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Delegate Orrock.
I move to lay on the table. Second.
The motion to lay the bill on the table has been made and seconded. Will the clerk please open the roll? Committee, record your vote. Clerk will close the roll. Committee recommends laying on the table 6-4. Thank you, Delegate Tran.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Chair
it.
and members of the committee.
Delegate Bulova, I believe we'll take up Delegate Wilkes last. So
very good. Well, I'm going to give you whiplash with this one.
Now,
So we're
did you,
going from recycling, noxious weeds, paraquat to dangerous dogs.
Well, I should have saved this for Dog Day.
Anyways, I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 467. Something I didn't know, and maybe the esteemed members of the subcommittee did know this, is that Virginia is a one dog bite rule state. One of my constituents whose stepson was injured by a dog found this out the hard way. So in this case, if you can kind of indulge me, my constituent's stepson was bitten by a dog while he was making a food delivery to another person's home. So he was on the property legally. He was there at the homeowner's invitation. The bite caused a puncture wound in the hand, and he ended up in the emergency room. The visit cost $1,300. Fortunately, the stepson had insurance, so they just had to go ahead and pay their $100 copay. So it wasn't as bad as it could be. But again, they were out $100. Naturally, they asked the dog owners, can you please go ahead and pay the $100? When that individual refused, they took that person to General District Court. What they were told by the judge was that while he was very sympathetic, is that Virginia case law, so it's not anything that we've ever adopted in the Code of Virginia, it was case law, provided that the plaintiff had to show that the owner knew that the dog was dangerous before he could successfully take them or win in civil court. So judgment denied, the victim was out $100. So hence the victim is victimized again by the one dog bite rule. Now, if it was a human who assaulted this person, you certainly don't get one free hit. I suppose you could make the case that dogs are more unpredictable than humans, although that is not always the case. But with pet ownership does come responsibilities, and so you can get fined for your pet being off a leash. You can get fined for not picking up after your pet. You can get fined for not paying your dog license. So certainly it doesn't make much sense, at least to me, that a dog owner shouldn't be held liable for physical damage to a human being. And I guess I would just kind of end with this. Imagine if this was your son or your daughter, and the bite was much more than a bite. I've heard a couple of arguments against this bill. The first being that the dangerous dog statute that we already have allows for civil action. And so that is true, but it is still subject to that existing case law. So even if you bring a civil suit under the dangerous dog statute, you would still get that one free bite. And you would lose in court. The second one is the impact on our shelters, and they do take ownership of stray dogs. And so I am very sympathetic, although you still have a victim, right? I would be very happy if it would help get this bill passed to go ahead and add something in there to say that damages would be limited to compensatory damages and not punitive damages for the first bite. So just kind of consider that as we go ahead and discuss the bill. But the bottom line for this is if your dog injures someone, the owner should be liable and the victim shouldn't be left paying for their medical bills out of their own pocket. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to take any questions, but I know that there's people here who probably want to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Bulova. All right. Seeing that no one has any questions from the committee, we'll start with folks in the room on testimony for the bill. All righty. The testimony against the bill. And then we'll go to virtual.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Clark Lewis, Troutman Pepper. I represent the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. If I could just summarize Virginia's common law, the delegate did a very good job, but I'd just like to bring a couple of points to you about these types of cases, which, by the way, when I was a litigator way back when, I actually tried a few in general district court. So in Virginia, we have a negligence standard when it relates to these types of actions, these very unfortunate actions. And what we say is, did the owner of the dog, when there's an incident, know the one bite rule or should have known of the dog's dangerous propensities? Now, we've heard about the no situation, but there's also should have known. You have a dog who nips at people, who's excited, who's aggressive, and that is very, subject to being a danger to others. Maybe he hasn't bitten anybody, but it's an aggressive dog. And that comes into evidence before a judge or a jury as to whether the owner knew or should have known of this dangerous dog. And we also have a rule that if you live in those areas of the Commonwealth where there are leash laws, if you don't have your dog on a leash in violation of a leash law, then that is negligence per se. So it's not just simply one bite in Virginia. This common law has evolved since I've been practicing, and that's been a long time. But the seminal case on this was in 1967. So this has been around a long, long time. But more importantly, when we look at the totality of the evidence, if you're a judge, you also look at what was the victim or the plaintiff suing, what were their actions? Were they totally surprised and shocked by a dog biting them, which is a terrible situation and one with which we sympathize, or were they aggressive to the dog? Did they play aggressively? Did they frighten the dog? Did they trespass somewhere in a yard and get bit? Because if this law were to pass, we leave the doctrine of negligence and we go to the doctrine of strict liability. Now, why is that important? Because we are a contributory negligence state in Virginia. So that would bypass looking at the victim's action. So if the victim were to go and harass a dog and scare it and shake it and the dog bites you, you're strictly liable, regardless of your actions. But if someone trespassed on property, the dog bit somebody, maybe you were surprised, concerned, again, strict liability. There's no doctrine of contributory negligence. So for those reasons, we would respectfully oppose this bill. This common law has been in existence. Judges and juries do a very good job of balancing these considerations under our current law, and we think we should trust the trier fact. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a couple of people online, and please keep it brief. Ms. Holly Hazard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, my name is Holly Hazard. I'm representing the Virginia Federation of Humane Societies, and we respectfully oppose H.R. 467. This bill is unnecessary, as the prior speaker indicated, as the dangerous dog statute in the code already states that, and I quote, "Such order shall not preclude the injured person from pursuing civil remedies, including damages that accrue after the original finding that the dog is a dangerous dog." We sympathize with the impetus for this bill, reporting that a constituent was denied compensation for medical expenses. However, the issue here seems to be a bad judge and not a bad law. This does not seem to be the forum to rectify this issue, and if I may say so, it seems the proponents may be barking up the wrong tree. The Federation, I had to. The Federation is concerned with the unintended consequences of this legislation. The current code does not allow for pain and suffering in addition to medical bills. The expansion of this law will expose already understaffed and overworked shelters to additional financial liability. Virginians are now protected under 3.2-6540 for medical expenses for any injury from another dog, including a first bite. This seems a reasonable standard for both the victim and an owner who is unaware of the possible danger of the dog. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next up, Matt Overturf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, my name is Matt Overturf. I'm with the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies. NAMIC is the nation's largest property and casualty insurance trade association with more than 1,400 member companies, 23 of which are domiciled in Virginia. For background, if covered by insurance policy, coverage for dog bite claims can come from several sources, but primarily found in homeowners or renters policy. NAMIC is opposed to House Bill 467 because it would apply a legal standard generally reserved for inherently dangerous activity to simply owning a dog. Unless there is knowledge of the propensity of an animal, there should be no duty or unlimited strict liability for its actions. Unlimited strict liability could result in insurance carriers not underwriting this risk and causing insolvencies in pet owners. For this reason, NAMIC is opposed to House Bill 467. With that, I will conclude my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Bulova, last remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate what Mr. Lewis is saying. From my perspective, if you own a dog, you have a responsibility, and you live with that dog, right? And so you ought to be able to know and take control of ensuring that people who are visiting and not trespassing are safe from the dog. I also will say that it has nothing to do with a bad judge. This is one of the first questions that I asked from Britt Olwine on the Courts Committee, and she said the judge got it exactly right. So it's absolutely true that the dangerous dog statute says this doesn't limit your civil recourse. But again, that civil recourse is going to be subject to that exact same thing, and that is the one dog bite rule. And so really it's a matter of policy, right? Is that, is it fair or not that somebody who is bitten by somebody else's dog doesn't have a recourse just because it's their first bite? But I appreciate the conversation, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Delegate Bulova. Delegate Orrock.
I move lay on the table. Second.
The motion has been made to lay HB 467 on the table and has been properly seconded. Will the clerk please open the roll? The committee will record their vote. Clerk will close the roll. HB 467 has been laid on the table. Thank you, Delegate Bulova.
Thank you for giving my day in court, yeah.
Delegate Wilt, are you going to face your firing squad?
We've been on a roll, Mr. Chairman. I say we keep up the same plan.
Delegate Wilt, which bill would you like to take up first, sir?
Taking the numerical order, Mr. Chairman. 830.
Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. House Bill 830 directs VDACS, Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, to develop a strategic plan to increase the combined throughput capacity of inspected slaughter and meat processing facilities in the Commonwealth and provide recommendations as to how to implement the plan. So we heard testimony in Full Ag this morning about, how the critical shortage on meat processing plants. And, no time has that been more evident than, during the pandemic. But even before that, the exciting news is the whole focus on, locally purchased products and so forth, and locally processed products. But the problem is there's a bottleneck, and as far as meat processing facilities go, we just don't have enough of them operating. Now, in my area, I don't know about anybody else, but we've got a number that are closed down. They just don't operate, and so I could go on, but that's the gist of the legislation, and welcome any questions, comments. I know there's folks here to speak in favor of the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Wilt. Questions from the committee? All right, I guess we'll take testimony of those that are in the room speaking for the legislation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and appreciate you taking this bill. And I want to say thank you to Delegate Wilt for bringing this forward. I'm Jim Riddell, and I represent the Virginia Cattlemen's Association and the thousands of farmers across Virginia. It's the second largest ag industry in Virginia, $460 million a year. This is about supply chain problems and the need for locally grown food. 8.6 million people live in Virginia, and we've got about 30 locations for processing plants that we can take our cattle to really in Virginia. There may be a few more. In my area of Central Virginia where I live, and I've got cattle myself, a couple hundred, I was taking some, and it was a 6-month wait back last year, and I called here recently to check again. It's almost a year wait. So to take cattle and get them processed, this is just the cattle business, it's anywhere from 6 months to a year. Demand is strong for our beef. This is a win-win situation. The consumers want it. They want our quality beef, and we want to process it and sell it. And this is a situation, and in the past years, it was fragmented. This was brought up in several locations across the state, but I just want to share with you, and I don't know if you know this, Delegate Wilt, this is the first time it's been a coordinated effort to bring forward an effort to increase capacity, to increase meat processing in Virginia. So it's a positive day. There's things going on at the federal level that will help this. This is about sustainability, keeping our farmers in business, keeping the beef out there. The folks want it. So the Virginia Cattlemen's Association, our members, we support it. And again, we thank you, Delegate Wilson, for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon again, Stephanie Talon with Virginia Farm Bureau. You've heard very clearly the need for the increased capacity of meat processing facilities in Virginia, so I won't speak to that, but I will just speak to the need for the approach that's laid out in the bill. We've heard from our members again the need for increasing capacity, but the reason why we don't have the facilities is kind of all over the board. We hear about the costs that are associated with the infrastructure to start up these facilities. We hear about labor shortages. We hear about difficulty navigating regulations. So versus one silver bullet solution at this point in time, we think it's appropriate for VDAX to take a look at the overall picture of where we are and where we want to be, and then provide those recommendations and move forward from there. So again, just taking a more thoughtful and strategic approach about it. So we do thank Delegate Wilt for bringing this forward, and VDAX for working with us on this issue.
Thank you. Next.
Charlie Broad, State Veterinarian with VDAX. We are in support of the bill.
Next.
Kyle Shreve, Virginia Agribusiness Council. We support the bill.
All right. Next, we'll take online testimony. Pat Calvert.
Mr. Chair, Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. We support the bill and hope that it'll pass unanimously just like the last one.
Dan Holmes.
Dan Holmes, Piedmont Environmental Council. We support the bill. Thank you.
Hobie.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to speak on one of his other bills, but we have no problem with this bill and hope you'll pass it.
Thank you. All right, having heard testimony, is there a second? All right, the motion has been made to report and properly seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Committee, please record their vote. Go. Clerk will close the roll. HB 830 reports 10-0. Will recommend reporting 10-0. Next up, Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Let's go for House Bill 831, anaerobic digestion. I mean, I know that's a topic that's got everybody sitting on the edge of their seats. House Bill 831 would clarify the use of anaerobic digestion and define digestate produced from the process. Further, digestate as a soil amendment would also be added to the definition of regulated product to ensure that it is labeled correctly with the source of material. Mr. Speaker, committee members, kind of the impetus of this. Anaerobic digestion is a process through which bacteria break down organic material, manure, biosolids, food wastes in the absence of oxygen. Digestate is the residual material left after the digestion process and can be used as nutrient-rich fertilizer, organic-rich compost, or as a soil amendment on ag land. Now, anaerobic digestion is an environmentally sound alternative to managing various byproducts from food waste, poultry processing, etc. Officially recognizing anaerobic digestion and digestate in code and bringing this process and product into the regulatory fold under the fertilizer law not only ensures it is labeled appropriately, but that it can open the door for more economic development opportunities to secure millions of dollars in investment in the Commonwealth that can generate jobs and revenue. We should have an industry rep that's prepared to speak on this front, I'm hoping. And also, Mr. Speaker and committee members, I visited one of these facilities back in the summer, and the technology is amazing. I mean, this is not some old, it's state-of-the-art. It's very impressive. And what they do with these types of various products, it's so advantageous to our state in so many ways, and so that's the purpose. But I do think there's an amendment or a substitute. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Delegate Wilt, I believe you have an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Yes.
There's a motion to adopt it. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of adopting the amendment in the nature of substitute, say aye. Aye. All those against? Okay. We have adopted the amendment in the nature of substitute. Sorry. Shall we take that? And does anybody have any questions? Delegate Helmer.
Mr. Chair, I would ask the patron, and maybe it's one of the guests speaking on this. I'm just trying to understand what can't be done today, what will be allowed to be done as a result of this change in definition, and specifically who profits from that.
Sure. And so, yes.
Delegate Wilt, would you like Kyle?
Mr. Chairman, Kyle Shreve, Virginia Agribusiness Council, to answer the delegate's question. The bill does several things. It adds anaerobic digestion and digestate to 3.2 that thus allows VDACs to register the product